Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. That name is all that I have to say, because she just broke the American record in the 400-meter dash on accident. That is the end of a very interesting story, so I'm just going to go all the way back to the beginning, because full disclosure, I plan to do a recap of maybe all the women's 400-meter semifinals, and yeah, to some degree, I guess I'm doing that. And I also planned on talking about the men's 400-meter semifinals along with it. But when you go out and break the American record like that, once again, in a semi-final heat, the narrative is no longer about everybody else. It is all about Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. So here we go. The way this story starts, I am casually watching the 400-meter semifinals go off. When I say casually, I mean I'm not even really taking detailed notes at the moment. I'm just watching. I just want to see how it happens. And I figured that Paulino, Naser, and Sydney were all going to be in different heats, which I was correct about. In the first one, Paulino goes out and actually runs confidently through the first 300. She's clearly ahead, even though we know she has great closing speed, and she actually slows up on the way to the line. Slows up so much so that she actually gets passed. Now, you technically only need to be top 2 in order to be an automatic qualifier for the final. I think she thought that she had more distance on the field than she actually did. But ultimately speaking, 49.8, 49.86, 85, something like that, I'm going off head, that's what she ran. And she's into the next round, and that's all she needed to do. We know how good she is and what she's accomplished in the last 2 years, Worlds, Olympics, all of that. Then Naser comes out. And we know the race script when Naser runs. The gun goes off, she runs incredibly hard, she dares you to come catch her, and it looked exactly like that. She ran the first 300, came off clean, stayed ahead of her field, and when the clock came up, because I thought it was going to be in the 48s, or at least 49.1, 49.0, because the announcers were talking about the fastest time that any woman has ever run in a championship semi-final. And they said it was 49.11, so I said, oh, Naser might take that out. I was wrong. She went 49.4, and everybody else was still distantly back. So by this point, you have time qualifiers who are sitting at the 50-point line, like they're behind 50, and they're thinking, I might have a chance to get to the World Championship Final. And then Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone comes up to run her heat. She's actually in one of the outside lanes. I think it's like lane 7 or something like that. And I noticed that Nikisha Price of Jamaica and Amber Anning, who's the world indoor champion, for Great Britain, they are also in the same heat, more or less close to Sydney on the lanes. So I'm like, all right, Sydney's gonna have to run. Like, granted, I expect her to make it to the final, but she's gonna have to run. Because I just watched women run 49.4 and 49.8. I assume she's gonna run somewhere in that window. The gun goes off and they say, Sydney's going out strong, which she was. But by the time we get to the 300, and I'm looking to see if anybody's gonna make it look interesting, again, interesting, because she's clearly ahead. And I was like, nah, it's not really looking like that. And she starts pulling away. Now, she's running, don't get me wrong, but she's not running all out. When I say all out, it's like, this isn't championship final time. She knows that she has to run confidently. She has to execute her race plan. She's already done that through 300 and 350. And she slows up just a little bit. Again, it's probably more momentum and things that are carrying her, but she's not walking it in. And she looks over at the clock the way she does, where she's just like, hey, how did I do? Because she ain't racing these other women. It's clear at this point. She is racing herself. And then the clock tells us 48.29 seconds. Needless to say, the other women in her heat ran way faster than the other heats that we had. A whole bunch of women ended up in the 49s. So if you ran 50 point and you were waiting on the bubble, I'm sorry, that's gone. So Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone will be the only American woman who makes it to the final. Isabella Whitaker was on the bubble. Aaliyah Butler was eliminated out of her first heat. We've got one American woman going to the final. But she's now going to the final as the favorite. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, and if you really want to know what's going on with the fastest athletes in the world, then you are in the right place. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. You have to understand the implications. First, there's the American record, which wasn't supposed to go down in the semifinal. Sonia Richards-Ross held that record for almost 20 years. I'm going off head, like just off memory. But now it belongs to Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. She is the world record holder in the 400 hurdles and the American record holder in the open 400, and it puts her on the top time, like the all-time top 10 list in the open 4 pretty solidly. But on a deeper level, it's not just the record. Coming into this championship, it was a very real discussion. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone versus Salwa Naser versus Marileidy Paulino. And a lot of people were doubting Sydney, specifically on her talent, because they were so in love with the clock. And I say they, because I wasn't in that group. I understood, at least, again, I'll just say this, this is just how I feel about it, though this is personal, that in track and field, you actually got to go out and race. The clock is an indication, but there's so many variables that determine what comes back on the clock when we go and compete. The only thing we can really trust is winning and losing. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone has proven that she is a winner. We know that she's fast. She's done that in the Open 200, and we know that she's strong. She does it in the 400 hurdles. Because she is so good in both components, there's no real reason why she couldn't run a 400 better than anybody else in the world. And she's already been close to doing that without giving it her full attention. This moment, the World Championships, is when she's actually giving it her full attention. When you go 48-29 in a year where the women in the world who could potentially beat you, that's right around what their personal bests are for their entire career. Forget about this season, for their entire career. And you do it in a semifinal running by yourself. Remember, there was no medals on the line. She wasn't giving it 100%. Yeah, she gave a great effort. I ain't gonna disrespect and say it was 80-85, but it was not 100%. I'm pretty sure Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is smart enough to run a semifinal with something left in the tank. Regardless, judging off the times we just got in those semifinals, the only way you beat Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone in the final, as far as I can tell, is you're gonna have to run 48 low, maybe even 47. And if you can't, you can kiss that goodbye. You're not beating her. On accident, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone just changed the narrative, because I'm not entirely sure that she planned on coming to the final exposing herself like this. And when I say that, yes, she might have been confident, but now everybody else knows it. They all know exactly what they need to do, because she could have snuck up on them in the final and maybe ran a version of this race. Maybe put a little extra juice on it, and that might be, let me just hypothetically say, maybe that was a 48-0 race in the final. And maybe that's what we'll get. And if you had done that in the past years, that would be a gold medal, just to put that on the board. But now that we've seen it, Naser and Paulino have to go to sleep, recognizing exactly how fast they're going to have to go now. Because this just blew up whatever their race plans were. I mean, Naser, maybe to a lesser degree. She knows that the race plan was always go hard or go home. But Paulino was always trying to stay in striking distance. That's what she had to do, to stay in striking distance long enough to be able to make a run at the line. But if Sydney's going to run like this, especially when we see what the semifinal was, that's not going to be enough. She's probably going to have to push harder now than she even really feels inclined to. Because remember, the speed in the first half, we know Salwa Naser on effort is going to keep up with that part. She's just going to have to hold it all together. But Paulino has to get out hard enough. She has speed, but she has to choose to go out hard enough and then count on that close. And hey, when it comes to, I guess the term would be redlining or what have you, like there's a line where you could go a little bit too hard and change, the trajectory of how that race is going to go. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is no longer just the world record holder in the 400 hurdles a whole bunch of times. And she's no longer just a competitor who has a shot at getting a medal in the Open 400 this year for the Worlds. She catapulted her way into the driver's seat where everybody in the world now knows that it's likely supposed to be her winning this gold medal. I said likely. I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments and people who disagree with me, and that's fine. But most people have probably left the reservation and joined the bandwagon that Sydney is the front runner. Was she supposed to be? If she does win this gold medal, what does it actually mean? I mean, she'd be the first woman we've seen to win the 400 hurdles and the 400, gold medals at the world championship level. She's already the first to win multiple gold medals in the 400 hurdles at the Olympic Games. She's this. The list is already so long. At this point, Sydney already told us what her goal was. Her goal is to essentially be the best scorecard track and field athlete or track athlete that we've ever had. Essentially similar to the heptathlon without the hep, where you look at the individual sprint races, the 1, the 2, the 4, you got the hurdle, the 400 hurdles, perhaps the 100 hurdles, and to be the most competent, the most proficient across all of these events. Like, that's the goal that we've ever seen. Now, the 400 hurdles, she's already done that. Like, that's a game where if I'm quoting Anderson Emerald of the final leg, she's already beaten that game, and she's even changed the cheat code so you can't even play this game anymore. We're going to watch the 400 hurdles this year, and I anticipate that Femme Cabal is likely going to win it, but I don't anticipate she's going to run in the 50.2 range because she doesn't have to. That's just what I expect. And we're going to celebrate it. It's just not the same thing as when Sydney goes and breaks her own world record again because she makes it look way too easy when she does. But in the Open 400, this is box office TV. If you want to see the best woman in the world compete, and now I'm talking about the entire sport of track and field, because if you're looking for somebody to point out and say, that's the best athlete, I'm starting to think that the debate is not much of a debate anymore. I'm sure we're going to have it, but I'm really curious which names you want to bring to the party. Because aside from maybe Faith Kipyegon and maybe one or two other names that you might try to bring for this generation, emphasis on for the generation, it feels like Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is that woman. She still has to run the final, and they're going to hand out a gold medal. And even though we don't know how it's going to go, we still have to run the races. We do now have a good idea of how it is supposed to go. And unfortunately, she just sent a message to the entire world, including Naser and Paulino, so that they know exactly what the script is going to be when that version of the Fast and Furious movie is played. And the only way they can change how it ends is if they can rewrite the script. But good luck with that. In the sport of track and field, confidence is everything, because when you win, that is just the moment when everybody else finds out what you already knew to be true, that fast is a lifestyle. Get your Fast is a Lifestyle track and field gear at scarecruiting.com/shop, or use the link in the description below. It's a huge support to me and this channel, so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.